One of the hottest races, if not the hottest race in the Capital District, is up in Saratoga County, where there's a real tough and interesting primary in the Republican Party's primary for sheriff. After some 40 years, Jim Bowen, a legendary, venerable sheriff, who's the longest tenured sheriff in New York State right now. I remember Jim when he first became sheriff. He's retiring, and the battle is between Mike Zurlo, a longtime employee of the Sheriff's Department, got a lot of experience in the Sheriff's Department and law enforcement experience generally, and he's also the guy backed by really the whole organization of the Republican Party from top to bottom. And he's joining us this morning, and of course he's running against Jeff Gildersleeve, who was with us here on Monday. Where do you stand on gun rights? I mean, you say you're opposed to the governor's so-called SAFE Act. Are you, are you an NRA member, for instance?
I am, yes.
When did you join?
Probably 4 months ago.
4 months ago?
Yeah.
How, when you were about to run for office?
Correct.
Why had you not joined before then?
I'm not a hunter. I don't, have a gun, so I joined to see what their organization is all about.
You don't have a gun? You're a police officer?
That's correct.
Or you were one. And also hostility from Albany towards the Second Amendment in the form of the Governor's SAFE Act. What about those as priorities for you?
With the SAFE Act, I'm totally against it. I will not do Governor Cuomo's dirty work. That's be a small part of what I have to do as sheriff.
Yeah. What does that mean? You wouldn't enforce the law?
No. What I'm saying is that I'm not going to do his dirty work.
What does that mean, though, do his dirty work? I mean, it's the law of the state.
Absolutely, and I take an oath to look as the top law enforcement officer. If we come across situations, I'll use the common sense approach.
But what does it mean not to do his dirty work? What are you thinking of when you say that?
The laws that he came up with in regards to the SAFE Act.
What about the laws? Well, the SAFE Act is the law.
Correct.
So when you say not to do his dirty work, does that mean you won't enforce the law, or that you will enforce it, but with difficulty because you're against it?
With difficulty, we'll look at each case as it comes across.
Well, I was told that Jim Bowen's department, your old department, restricts the ability of police officers, deputies, to purchase weapons when they're on their own. I guess many departments allow people to purchase with their badge. They can't carry weapons, apparently, when they're off duty unless they get special permission. Are there restrictions on the deputies that don't occur in other departments? And if so, do you agree with those or do you not?
I have to see what other departments do.
You must have some familiarity with them.
Yeah, and I'll look at that.
But do you have familiarity with them now? You're not aware of what other departments do?
I am not.
Oh, okay.
And that's something.
Have you heard this concern expressed, though?
Not really.
Okay.
And when I become sheriff, we'll look into it. I'll research it, and I'll see. We'll go from that point. But it's something that I'm open to, and we'll look into.
Let me ask you about the organizational support you have. For instance, when I got off the air on Monday, someone from Senator Skelos' office came over and asked me to put you on the air, which I was happy to do. Is Senator Skelos backing you?
No, I was surprised when I heard that.
You weren't aware of it?
Right, correct.
What do you think of what Skelos did with the message of necessity for the SAFE Act, so-called SAFE Act?
I think it was pushed down everybody's throats, and the law-abiding citizens never had an opportunity to...
But Senator Skelos signed a letter that allowed the message of necessity to be used to rush or jam that through. In retrospect, do you think that he shouldn't have done it, or do you think he shouldn't have?
Like I said, I think the law-abiding citizens should have had an opportunity to...
No, I understand, but that's not what I asked you. Yeah. I asked you, do you think Skelos should have done it or should not have done it?
I think it was rushed.
But what about Skelos? You think he acted improperly if he signed this letter, which he did sign?
If he did, then yeah, absolutely.
A couple of people have contacted me, and it's not surprising because I had noted you were going to be joining us. You hear from people on various sides. And they've contacted me claiming that some of your resume contentions or claims aren't quite right. You're described, I think, on your resume as a senior chief investigator, having been a senior chief investigator in the department, and they have claimed that there's no such title, and also that you were a lieutenant in the sheriff's department. And the claim was that, to me, is that you never really were a lieutenant. You were an acting lieutenant, and that you hadn't gotten the civil service approval to be lieutenant for whatever reason. Are either of those allegations against you correct? And how about the claim about being a lieutenant?
I was a provisional lieutenant with the Sheriff's Department for, I believe, a year and a half.
Okay, yeah. Well, you were a lieutenant. Why was it provisional? Why wasn't it ever made permanent?
Because of civil service testing.
You didn't pass the test?
That's correct.
Okay, fair enough. challenge to your opponent's petitions, which were built around the claim that his name wasn't properly put on there. Why would you try to deny Republican voters the right to have a decision, right to have a opportunity to decide who their party's nominee should be, merely on the basis of someone putting their name down spelled in a way that generally he isn't known as? Why did you decide to do that?
That's part of the process.
It doesn't have to be. It's not required.
Correct.
That was a choice you made.
Correct. Right. The lawyers believed that there was an issue with it.
Yeah, but you have to authorize them. If you had told them not to do it, if you control your own campaign, they could have said, okay, we're just calling it to your attention. But you could have argued that in this day and age, when someone has that many signatures, we shouldn't try to knock them out on a technicality, which is exactly what you tried to do.
Correct. But I also believe if the shoe was on the other foot, it would be the other side of the fence. So
shouldn't one set an example? Just because the opponent would do something doesn't mean you have to.
Correct.
Yeah. So why do it? And the fact you did it, and however good your lawyers were, you lost. It's even worse when you lose. If you knock them off, then you could have said, well, that's the way it happens. But so it's an issue now, as are the disappearance of his signs. You're saying 300 signs have been stolen? Now, that always goes on. It's an awful thing to do. I've seen campaigns on both sides of primaries and generals do it. It's disgusting. Do your people have any knowledge of who's involved with this, assuming it's even happening?
I don't, Fred. Listen, I've had signs missing. I've had signs show up at my front lawn damaged. I don't condone it. Could be, town regulations where you can't have signs up on right-of-ways, maybe overzealous supporters. I don't condone anything. Right. I'm out there meeting the public and talking to the people what they want to hear.
In this day and age of these infrared cameras that deer hunters use and others can use, you can set up these cameras. I'm sure the military uses them. And you could get pictures of people doing this kind of thing. They're motion detectors at night with infrared light that can't be seen. I wish they would do that. And let's see some pictures of who these people are if it's happening.
Absolutely. It's happening on my side. And, like I said, I don't condone it.
Have there been any debates with your opponent?
No. One was scheduled with the Saratogian. It just couldn't fit into our schedule.
But isn't that something that should have been a top priority for the public to see you two together? Why couldn't you fit it in? What was going on?
Because we had other commitments, and there was...
What were they?
Out meeting the public.
So individually meeting the public is more important than putting on a debate that the public could see?
I'd like to have the people understand where my views are. And it was given to us, I think, like the day before, and we just had a it just...
Are you ready to debate them now? Would there be debates before the primary?
I think my schedule's booked right up until 7.
So you're refusing to debate them?
I'm not refusing.
Look, you can change a schedule.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's an old trick of politicians. I'm too busy to debate. Isn't a debate something that should be of the highest priority?
Absolutely.
So why not clear your schedule to do it?
And we'll look into it.
What does that mean?
We'll see.
You're going to do it or not?
We'll see what
So you won't commit? I mean, now that's usually a strategy not to do it.
At this point, like I said, we'll look into...
But what was the reason not to do it? What could you possibly have? Why not set aside an evening or a morning? I'll give you my show here for an hour if you want to do it here, although this isn't probably not the best venue for you. But why wouldn't you want to do it unless you're afraid to debate them?
Absolutely not.
So why not debate them then?
Like I said, we'll look into it.
What does that mean, look into it? You've been looking into it for months.
I'll confer with my...
I mean, doesn't that sound wussy for a sheriff? A guy's going to be a sheriff. He's afraid to... He won't debate his opponent?
No, absolutely not.
Then why not? Just give us a reason.
There is no... I'll look into it.
What does that mean, I'll look into it? I'll give you a minute right now to think about it and tell us your answer. I'll be silent for a minute.
My answer to you is that we will review it, we will look into it, and if...
But what are the factors to be considered? If you look into something, you have factors. You have to see, is it a plus or a minus for me? Presumably, you concluded it was a minus. Otherwise, you would do it. What else could it be? I can't hold my own?
No.
Certainly you could. You're an experienced guy. So why wouldn't you want the public to see it? Won't that be a factor for the local papers and their endorsements if you refuse to debate the guy? And shouldn't it be a factor? How would you feel about a candidate if you were trying to make up your mind between two candidates and one wouldn't debate the other? Wouldn't you feel badly about that candidate? Shouldn't the public have a right to expect a debate?
Like I said, with the... what I'm talking about is my schedule doesn't permit that. Up until September 10th, I am out.
Who is possibly booked up for 2 weeks without a little window? Give the guy a half an hour. He may turn you down, but at least say I can do it at 11 o'clock at night next Tuesday evening.
Fred, I'm out walking day and night.
All right. Mike Zurlo, thank you for coming in. I can't, that's one I cannot believe. But listen, thank you for coming in. Good luck. Not easy to be in the political arena. Nice fellow, and he certainly has committed himself over many years to the Sheriff's Department in Saratoga County. But how do you justify not debating your opponent, and not just not debating your opponent, but not having a good explanation for why you're not going to debate your opponent, except that I'm too busy, my schedule is booked up? I mean, think of that as an insult. What an insult that is to the electorate to say I can't clear an hour to make way for an opportunity for the public and those young people he says he cares about. You know, at the beginning he sounded like he was running for school principal, not sheriff, saying he's going to meet the students once a month and to have them tell him what they want. I mean, come on. There's nothing new to learn there. But the emphasis, it seems to me, has to be on letting the voters know what it is you have in mind and explaining things clearly. And, look, if you had a good reason not to debate, and I can't think of one except as political strategy. We've seen it over the years. It was made infamous a number of years ago by then Governor Mario Cuomo, who used to use it as a technique to minimize his opponent. The argument was that if you allowed, say, an Andy O'Rourke to debate you, it would raise his stature, give him more publicity. People would maybe tune in and like what he had to say. And that's apparently what Mike Zurlo's advisors have told him. He does seem to be a creature of advisors. As he was saying with the attempt to knock Jeff Gildersleeve off the ballot, his lawyers told him the opportunity was there. Well, as I said, you can tell your lawyers that's not the right thing to do, especially when it's over a mere technicality of spelling your name or how you put your name down. It's not as if the allegation was that the petition signatures were false, and I think that's a very legitimate reason to knock someone off if they're not complying with the law that way. But if you put your name down in a way that you're not normally known, should that be grounds to stop the voters from having a decision? Obviously, that's a rhetorical question. The answer, of course, is no. Got an email here. I don't know who these people are that are coming in. Lisa Girardi. Thanks, Fred, for doing what you do best, asking the hard questions and making the candidate answer. I wish I could have made him answer on that one. Here's a guy, very bright guy. He says, great job in trying to zoom in on Zurlo. He used a different word. I don't want to use that on the air. And a few other people weighing in. The point is that it's sad, generally around, of course, that we don't have candidates who are more confident and comfortable in their skin, so to speak.